How are you this evening? Are you good? So tonight we conclude the 3-week series on spiritual travel, right? How many of you enjoy traveling? How many of you just hate traveling? Anybody, any travel haters? Yeah, kind of a kind of not really. Yeah, I love it, and I absolutely believe that moving out of our safety zone in our little house and our little life and our little world and traveling invites spiritual experiences. And I believe that that's why for thousands of years people have taken spiritual pilgrimages. They've traveled in a way to have a more profound experience of God. And so tonight we're going to conclude the series and we're going to talk about lessons learned on the road. And the question I have for you tonight, and so pretend like I haven't said it when I get to my lesson, okay? The question that I have for you tonight is what are the most profound things that you've learned about life on the road, on your trips, on traveling? And that's what we're going to focus on is understanding how God reveals itself to you while you're on the road. Are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. Ready? Our opening statement tonight is, I am a spiritual adventurer. No, my life is a spiritual adventure. That's what I knew. All right, together? My life is a spiritual adventure. Is that true? One more time. My life is a spiritual adventure. Let's take that into prayer. I want you to open your mind, your heart to the adventure of your life. Oh, it's supposed to be an adventure. I thought I was supposed to have control. I thought it was supposed to go exactly the way that I thought it was supposed to go. It's supposed to be an adventure. Take a deep breath and tell yourself it was supposed to be an adventure. Together, it was supposed to be an adventure. But God's right here. That no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, God's right there. That God is within you and all around you. And whatever's happened in your life tonight, it was supposed to be an adventure. It was supposed to be interesting. It was supposed to get your full attention. It was supposed to call you higher. It was supposed to call forth your faith and your trust and your belief and your courage and your actions. It was supposed to be exactly the way it is. It was supposed to be an adventure. Tonight we just trust that in the midst of all the adventures in our life, that we are one with God. That God's wisdom and strength and power and joy is with us always. So in the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Take a deep breath and feel the presence of God that is within you and all around you. And I want you just to tell yourself how safe you are. And sometimes our mind tells us all kinds of stories and scares us. And then when we actually begin to meditate and we actually begin to feel God, for some of us, we feel safe for the very first time in our life. And we're not safe because of where we are or who we're with. We're actually safe because God is within us. And God is all around us. And for the first time in our life, we feel deeply, profoundly connected to something greater than ourselves. Tonight, I want you to entertain the idea that you're safe. You're deeply, profoundly safe. You're safe because God is within you and all around you. That in fact you cannot separate yourself from God. Only in your mind, only in your thoughts can you entertain ideas that are separate from God. But God is the energy that created you, that causes your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe, and gives you the energy for every step. I am safe. I'm in God. I am safe. I'm in God. I'm surrounded and enfolded in pure God. I am safe. I'm in God. Then no matter where you go, no matter what you do, the infinite presence and power of God is always within you. That you can no more be separate from your Creator than you can be separate from your next breath. It's always there. Right there. I'm safe. I'm in God. I am safe. God's in me. I am safe. For the whole world is in God. I am safe. And God is in the whole world. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, let go. Let go of any fear, let go of any drama, let go of any story. Let go. And with every time you breathe, just breathe in more God. Breathe in more good. For there is no limit. There is no boundary between you and God. Nothing separates you from your Creator, and nothing that your Creator is or have could ever be kept from you. There's only God. Right here, right now, there is only God. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks that we are so divinely blessed, that we are so completely connected and enfolded in God. So whatever's going on tonight, I know that you're safe and that God is right there in every breath. And so it is. Amen. Okay, you guys ready? Okay, so have you ever just not wanted to know? Have you ever had something in your life where you just didn't want to see it? Just don't give me the results. I know I'm going to get a grade, but I just don't really want to see my grade. I don't really want to know what my bank balance is. You know, if it's a letter from the IRS, could somebody else open it? Right? Have you ever just not wanted to know? See, I believe that some of us travel from a place of unconsciousness, right? And I love looking at travel as a spiritual adventure. That's why if you look back, there's times when I've taken groups on trips. We've gone to Europe and cruises and things. Because I absolutely believe that if you get people out of their box, whatever their box is, it is actually easier to have a profound experience of God. It's actually easier to look at your stuff because in the box that most of us live in, there's a whole lot we don't want to see. Now, you don't have to raise your hand for that, but that's sometimes what I believe, right? That sometimes we don't really want to see the way we act or believe or speak or any of our stuff, right? But somehow when you get us out of our little world, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but, we get out of our little life, it's like, I'm a little crabbier than I thought. Or, I'm a little needier than I thought. Or, I get scared a lot more often than I even realized, right? And there's something that happens when you pluck somebody out of their life and pluck them somewhere else, and it's like, that's not the altogether hip guy that I want to be in most of my life. That guy's just kind of weird or needy or guy's just kind of broken or, whatever it is. And then you get to kind of really look at what you believe about yourself. And that's why I think it's so powerful. So if you look at travel as part of your spiritual teacher, right? What lessons have you learned from traveling? My talk tonight is lessons from the road. What lessons have you learned about life from traveling? Because I will tell you some of the most profound lessons I've learned have been on the road. And some of the way that I get to really see the way that I really relate to life is when I'm away from all my normal stuff and I can actually see the way that I really am. Right? Because how many of you know that you can clean up really good when you want to? Right? Right? That we have this huge possibility of cleaning our act up, right? And yet when we're on the road, it's amazing how crazy we can be to complete strangers. Right? So what's the lessons you've learned? And tonight I want to share like 3 and maybe 4 of the things that for me have been the most profound. Are you willing? And your homework, I can't start with homework, but I'm going to start with homework. Your homework is, I actually want you to write down the lessons that you've learned from the road. I actually would like you to take an hour and challenge yourself, what is it that I believe about travel? What lessons have I learned about being on the road and traveling? Because I want you to be really conscious of these. Right? So they're not just kind of vague things or things they just kind of let wash by, but things that you really own and say, that's really true. And if that's true for me when I'm on a trip, could that possibly be true for me in a bigger chunk of my life? Okay? So here we go. You ready? So here's what I want to share with for me my big 3. I'm going to even diagram them out. Not that it will help me, but it may. All right? So here's the first one. When I'm traveling, it doesn't always work the way that I think it's supposed to, should, or I want it to. How many of you have ever had an experience traveling that it didn't work the way you signed up for? Great, right? So it seems to be a universal experience that traveling doesn't always work the way you think it's supposed to. True? True. Now, if it's true for traveling, can you imagine that in other areas of your life, it may not work the way you think it's supposed to? Right? And what I want us to look at is if it's consistently happening, what would it take for us to let go of the belief that it's actually supposed to happen the way you think it's supposed to happen? Like if it consistently doesn't work the way you think it's going to work, but we have this mindset every time we go to take a trip that it's actually going to work the way we think it's supposed to work. And what I'd like to suggest tonight, it's not ever going to go the way you think it's supposed to go. Not ever. Like sometimes there's kind of a bait and switch. You know what a bait and switch is, where they present one product and then they switch it just so you get your hopes up and then they snatch it right away from you. So sometimes you have trips that absolutely go the way you expect them to, right? And then you think, well, this is the way it should be all the time. No. Life was meant, intended, supposed to be an adventure. And the definition of an adventure is you're not supposed to know what's going to happen next. Have you ever watched a TV show more than once? I've watched the Bourne series. Literally, I probably watched each one at least 10 times, right? And every time I watch it as if I don't know what's going to happen next. Right? Because if I watch it like I actually know what's going to happen to him after, it's like it's no fun, right? You actually have to suspend your belief that you know what's going to happen next. And somehow as a soul, we've made an agreement that we are not going to know what's going to happen next. Because life is more fun if you don't know what's going to happen next. Will you say with me? I never know what's going to happen next. Together? I never know what's going to happen next. And look, nobody died from that. Did anybody stop breathing because they said that out loud? Like it's actually okay that we don't know what's going to happen next. Say it one more time. I never know what's going to happen next. One more time. I never know what's going to happen next. And we're actually okay with that. Right? What I want you to see is they're okay. Now, there's two ways that you can handle that. Right? The first one, you can look at it as a blessing. The other way you can look at it is as a victim. So when life doesn't go the way you think it's supposed to, how many times do you interpret that as, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so blessed? Like, I'm sorry, sir, your flight was just canceled. Oh, thank you, I'm going to be so blessed. Right? I'm sorry, we don't have your hotel room. I am so glad you said that. Sir, your car's not going to be ready for 2 hours. Thank you, Jesus. Right? So there's really two ways to look at this, right? Either everything is a blessing or everything in the universe is trying to victimize you. How many of us, when we're traveling and it doesn't go the way we think it is, our first response is, I'm a victim to this situation. I'm a victim to the airline. I'm a victim to the food. I'm a victim to the hotel. I'm a victim to the car. I'm a victim that I don't know where I'm going. I'm a victim to the cranky, crying child 2 seats away from me, right? Or I'm a victim to this person who just wants to talk and talk and talk because I just want to sleep in my seat and be left alone, right? That we interpret travel over and over again, most of the time, not as a blessing, but as a victim. And what I want you to see tonight is, you know that when you're acting as a victim, when you're angry. That every time you get angry in travel, 100% of the time, it's because you're in your victim mindset. That when you go to the counter wanting to rip somebody's face off, 100% of the time, you believe you're a victim. You're not going there to see what the blessing is for you. Right? Now, here's what I want you to see. If you live blessed, it gets better. It just does. I mean, I could give you a list of all the times in the car, in the hotel, in the airport, where it's gotten much better. I mean, I think about the time Jill and I were coming back from Yellowstone. Coming back, I was leading a men's workshop in San Diego. We stopped in Vegas. We made a reservation about an hour or two before we got to Las Vegas. They said, Mr. Rogers, I'm sorry, your room is not available. And they said, but we have a lovely room for you. And they said, and I said, do you think I'm going to be happy with it? Do you think I'm going to be satisfied with it? And they said, Mr. Rogers, you're going to be very satisfied. And they said, you're going to go around the corner. There's a private elevator. We're going to take you up, and then your butler's going to meet you at the top. And then he's going to take you up to another things, and they're going to show you your room. I had a butler. Can I say that one more time just because I love saying that? I mean, I lay out my clothes on my bed just pretending my butler did it, right? For one night of my life, I had a butler. Is anybody interested in a job? I need another butler, right? And so that night in that hotel room in Las Vegas, we had dinner, full moon. We had dinner poolside, thanks to, can I say it one more time? Our all for $169. Thank you, Jesus, right? Right? And I can give you the list over and over again where it got better than I ever would have imagined. I can give you a list. Time we went down to Florida. Kids were with us. We went down to Florida, and the kids were small. We got to the hotel. They said it was like 11 o'clock at night. Mr. Rogers, we're completely sold out. It's like, oh, okay. And so we don't even have a room for you tonight anywhere on the property. We're going to put you in a Holiday Inn. Okay, right? So we went to the Holiday Inn. We spent the night in the Holiday Inn. The kids opened the blinds in the morning. There were alligators right outside the door. The kids thought that was the greatest thing ever. They thought that was fabulous. When we got back to the resort, they put us in a fabulous room, oceanside, gave us free food. It was a fabulous, fabulous trip. And so what I want you to see is if you look at it not working as a blessing, the universe is an amazing place. It just gets better, right? And when you look at it as a victim, it's not good, right? So instead of looking at it as a victim when it doesn't work, I want to share the other thing that I've really learned. Is what's more important? Being happy and enjoying your trip, or being right at how miserable it is? So 2 years ago, my daughter went to Thailand. As part of her graduation experience, she and her boyfriend went to Thailand. And when they're on the trip, they got engaged, special, wonderful. Part of the deal was they wanted to do this thing where it was a thing. It was the travel, the hotel. Once they got there, they could buy this thing. And it was supposed to be all-inclusive. For each one of them, it was $1,000. And in Thailand, $1,000. I mean, you own half the country for $1,000, right? So they spent all this money for this thing that was supposed to be all their travel, all their hotels while they were there. And it was a big, fat fraud. They tried to work with the credit card company when they got back and while they were there. And they for whatever reason, she got the bill, right? 22 years old, $1,000 a piece, ton of money for them, ton of money. $1,000, I mean, it was a ton of money. And they were going to be there for almost 3 weeks, $1,000. They had to decide, is this going to ruin our trip, or are we going to be happy anyway? See, one of the things about travel is you get to see how much you need before you get to be happy. And how quickly you're willing to throw your happiness out the window. Like for $1,000, do you throw your happiness out? Well, heck yeah. I throw it out for $100. You know, for a bad cab ride, for $15 or $2 for a bad cab ride, I'll throw my happiness out the window and I'll stomp on it. Right? I don't need happiness. But there's a thing, right? that in travel you get to really decide over and over again, because for most of us, we think happiness is an addition problem. If I get what I want, then I'm going to be, and if I don't get what I want, then I'm going to be sad, angry, victim, whatever. And really, in reality, what happiness is what would I have to let go of? What thought, what belief, what judgment would I have to let go of in this moment to be profoundly happy? And travel over and over again gives us an opportunity to really look at what we think it takes for us to be happy and to decide if happiness is more important. Have you ever had a terrible trip? Or even a terrible day on a trip? And what I want you to see is like how often we would choose to be a victim and unhappy as opposed to being profoundly happy with our life. See, for me, these three things, it's not going to work the way I think it's going to work. It's going to work better. And I get to choose how happy I am. Over and over again, for me, that's the spiritual lesson in travel. It's not going to work. Everybody say that with me? It's not going to work the way I think it's going to work. Together? It's not going to work the way I think it's going to work. And it never does. It just never, ever, ever does. And when it does work the way we think it works, woohoo, right? But it's going to be better. It really is going to be better. And even if it's not better, you get to decide how committed you are to your own happiness. Because no one's ever going to make you happy. Have you ever wanted somebody special in your life to make you happy? How's that working? Right? Because it's not possible. Happiness over and over again is a subtraction problem. What thought, what belief, what judgment, what expectation do I need to let go of to be profoundly happy? Okay, does that make sense? You with me on this? And I want you just to, if you can remember this just as a triangle, right? It's not going to work, but it could work out better. And even if it doesn't work out better, I choose to be happy. That over and over and over again, we get to practice moving from a victim to an empowered spiritual being. We get to choose. And nobody gets to choose that for you. And do you have every right to be a victim? Yes. Do you have every right to be angry and miserable? Yes. You have free will. You can blow vacation after vacation after vacation being angry. Or you can decide that no matter how it goes, because it's not going to work the way I think it's going to work, and I'm going to be happy anyway. Now, if you can do that on a trip, what do you think the probability is that you could integrate that into your every day of your life? Higher or lower? Higher, right? If you can be happy no matter what happens on a trip, then guess what? You can be happy with anything. Okay? Does this make sense? You with me? Okay, I want to give you one more. This is the fourth one. And this is what I've learned this year. This is what I learned on my summer vacation this year. Now, so I had the opportunity this year to go have 3 trips to California. 2 of them were speaking, and one was pure pleasure. And the pure pleasure I got to take with my daughter. And it was, our birthdays are within a week of each other, so we took a trip to San Diego with our dogs for our birthday weekend. Fabulous, right? And do you remember that first weekend in June where we had such a mild May? We had a very mild May this year, right? Except for that first weekend in June when it went up to like 114, 116 degrees. So summer came in and just with a like, hello, I'm here, right? So she was doing her rotation in Yuma. She was doing OBGYN in Yuma for that 4 weeks of June. And that was her final rotation. And so I picked her up on a Thursday, Wednesday, some night. Picked her up after she finished. and had our dog in my car, and we drove to San Diego. And from Yuma, it's like 2.5 hours. Like you're already there. And you're done, right? So we get to San Diego, and we get to Ocean Beach, and she had found us this hotel right on the beach that was dog friendly. And we drove into San Diego, and it was 66 degrees in the fog. Now, you may think, well, that's a terrible thing. I thought it was heaven. Literally heaven. My dogs thought it was heaven, right? Every part of us thought it was heaven. And at that moment, I realized that there's a whole nother level of good that God has for us. And I'm not saying that we all need to move to San Diego. That's not my point here, right? My point is, so over the last year and a half, I've been speaking a lot about miracles. And one of the things that happens is I speak more and more about miracles is, especially traveling and doing it in other churches and things, is I'm getting to witness people having miracles over and over again. I spoke, last month, and the soloist at the church I spoke at had been having leg pain for a couple months. And the 2 days after I spoke, her leg pain was gone. I spoke about miracles. She had a miracle. And here I am in San Diego, and it's 66 degrees. And the experience I have is, how much more good does God have for all of us than we even believe is possible? And tonight, I wanted you to hear all that. But the thing that I really wanted you to hear is, what is the line that maybe you've drawn that says only this much good is possible in my life? And would you be willing to entertain the possibility that it could be 48 degrees better? Literally 48 degrees better. Because the whole thing is that when we travel, we step out of the world that we've created, and we get to step into something else. And sometimes we get there and we realize, no, the world I've created is much better. But sometimes we step out of our world and we think, there's more room here for good. There's more room here for God. So where in your life have you been settling for the way it is, and you know that God has greater good for you? Would you be willing for it to get 48 degrees better without moving to San Diego? Because if you all move to San Diego, I don't know what I'm going to do. All right? No. 48 degrees. So take a breath. I want you to just close your eyes for a second, and I want you to entertain the idea, God, where is the place in my life where I've limited the good that you have for me? What is the area in my life that I've settled for less? What is the area in my life that I haven't even entertained the idea that it could be so much better? Tonight, would you be willing to step out of the world that you've known and step into the glory of God? And what if this is happening not only for you and to your world, but what if this is the promise for the whole world tonight? That all the limitation and difficulties and hatred and suffering and pain and fear that we've adjusted to, what if tonight it gets much better? and that we get to be profoundly blessed. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks, and so it is. Amen.